You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
No charcoal girls are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, bro.
Illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
So, UCLA dismissed one of its cross-country runners after he was recorded having a meltdown because his girlfriend cheated on him with a black guy. Right there, y'all, is Chris Wheeland. He was suspended when this coach first found out about the recordings. But after the audio of Wheeland using racial and homophobic slurs hit the internet, UCLA said they were banning him from their athletic program. Oh my Lord, listen to this.
What did you do when she said that she was gonna...
I was very respectful and, you know,
Okay, very good.
yeah, and then until I asked her about what she did last night. Oh, nothing. Did you do anything? No, I swear. Oh, really? Did you dance with him? Yeah. Did you kiss him? No. You sure? Yeah. Did you kiss him? No. 10 minutes later? Yeah. And then I told her to get the out.
And then what did she say?
She got out.
Well, I know what her backup, her thing is going to be, that you've cheated on her before.
Yeah, that's not a good excuse. What, so we can get even?
Yeah, but, okay.
When she said she doesn't, you know, want to get back together, why do you think? It's because she wants to be with this who has no future. She's going to be with a stupid who's going to be in community college all his life.
Christopher, don't talk like that.
I don't give a
Yes, you do. You know what? Don't be crazy and do crazy things. You don't talk about people because you don't want him to kick you or whatever.
I'll beat the out of him.
You know what? Don't talk like that. Why would... You know what? Move forward. Move forward. You said you're done with her? Then move forward. I mean, just move forward, make yourself better, work on things, and, you know, if things are meant to be, she'll come back.
I don't want that back.
Okay, well then, you know what? There's a lot of other nice girls out there.
I'm sure there are that won't cheat.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep.
Where does that kid live?
I don't know, probably the ghetto. I'm sure Kayla knows, though. I can ask her.
No, you know what? You don't need to ask her.
joking. I'm not going to ask her.
I know, but you know what? You have to. You guys were broken up.
Okay, but she only did that as an excuse to be a that night. She knew that too. She wouldn't have left over a streak. Is that not true? She found a petty excuse to end it so she can go take out with this guy.
The whole thing with the streaks, get rid of them. They cause trouble. They're stupid. I would be too. But you say she has them. They're stupid. It's a lesson to learn. Get rid of the streaks. Don't have streaks with people. And don't be sneaky about, I would be too. If the whole...
You're really trying to justify her being a and making out with guys on New Year's.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, you're trying to justify her being a little That's all she is. That's all she ever has been. And she knows it too.
Christopher, you know what? Let me tell you
I'm
something.
going to hang up now.
You need to be careful of that. Remember, you're not going to talk bad about her.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
You know what? It makes you look bad.
It'll make her look bad.
No, it won't. No, it won't.
Okay.
You don't want to trash talk her.
I'm going to go.
Okay, text me when you get home.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, first, my 24-year-old niece says the streaks referenced are in regards to Snapchat and how often you interact with other people on the app. Okay, whatever. All right, Julian, here's why I'm laughing. Dog, you cheated on her. Now you're mad because she slept with a black guy. I had the sense there was penis envy going on here. Oh, he probably lives in the ghetto. Oh, and I love he's going to be stuck at community college for a long time. That little white boy, he actually went to community college before coming to UCLA. I found out, and the whole deal, you mad and upset, but y'all broke up. And now you've been kicked off the UCLA track team and kicked out of UCLA. Bye-bye.
Talk about cancel culture. Anyway, I was cracking up to Roland when I was listening earlier to the tape. This poor child doesn't have a clue. And like you said, it's probably penis envy, among other things, and racism. And I'm glad UCLA kicked him off the team, but it really is amusing. The only thing one could say in his potential defense, not really, is that he's in his early 20s. People don't have a fully developed brain until they're about 25. So, he's brain deficient, and that's something that's going on. The woman who was talking to him, I guess it must have been his mom or something. I mean, she was very patient with him and told him not to use that kind of language. But apparently, he learned it somewhere, maybe at home.
Well, first of all, his mom was like, look, you're going to get in trouble for saying this. No, I'm not. Yes, you are, Mike.
I just
Why did
say
I?
this. I'm pretty sure
Did the
that the answer.
Hold on, Eugene, hold on. Mike, go ahead.
Did the mother release the tape? Is that how this got out?
Hey,
I can't imagine she.
First of all, we don't know if that was the mother or not. We don't know who the woman was.
Oh, I see.
It sounds like an older woman. It sounds like, but I don't know what it is. But bottom line is, he gone.
Yeah, and he should be. And it'd be interesting. I wonder if he's gone because he dropped the F word, or because he dropped the N word, or because of both. Because in this cancel culture that we're in, it'd be interesting to see, what really tipped the scales.
Well, actually, here's the deal. The UCLA found out about this, and then he got suspended. But the coach put him back on the team. But when it got out, is when they were like, yeah, you got to go. And the comment was from the coach. It says, and this is from Anderson Real Estate at Wheeling in January. But, quote, after team members in the athletic community expressed concern, meaning black athletes, it became clear that his continued involvement with the team is incompatible with the culture of mutual support and respect we're fostering. I now realize that the decision to reinstate him was not the right decision, and that the action today is best for the well-being of our team. Translation, the black athletes were going to walk.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Eugene, go ahead.
I was just going to say, look, with the outcome of this, I'm pretty sure the ancestors looking down, smiling. All I can think about as he was going on having his meltdown is the meme that goes around with Martin and Malcolm looking down on the field of a black man whipping a white slave. I mean, this is these type of situations. these type of situations, he thought he was going to get his stuff off and drop all the niggers, and it was never going to get out. And here we are today.
Well, and the thing is here, Chris, the internet's going to be around for a long time. And everywhere you go. In fact, every woman you try to date, go and Google your name.
That's
And I would suggest you not go around any brothers anytime soon. Might not end well for you. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Well, 9 Democrats voted no, but the most arrogant one was the Arizona Senator Christian Sinema. Look at this.
70% of their revenue compared to 2019. And these are people who are hustling to do stand-up, pop-up windows and all sorts of things to keep the restaurants and restaurant employment working.
This.
Sinema, Miss.
Like, really? Okay. There was a, let me know, do y'all have the tweet that she sent out? Pull this tweet up. This is what she posted in 2014. A full-time minimum wage earner makes less than $16K a year. This one's a no-brainer. Tell Congress to hashtag raise the wage. Yeah. Rob, I got a feeling that video is going to come back to haunt Christian Sinema.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's an easy video to use. And then you can use that tweet you just showed when she was raising money from people probably that couldn't give a whole lot. She probably raised like millions of dollars from that tweet. Like, oh, she supports this. She wants to support ideas. And then when she gets there, she does what too many Democrats do. They flip when they get there and don't stand for conviction and wonder why we lose elections that we shouldn't lose, because we get these type of politicians that say that they're with us and they get there and they act cute and do something like that. It should be used against her. Like, that's inexcusable. And it shows just that there's no moral conviction and there's no follow through on the core issues that Democrats say that they care about. Yes, there are many that do. But when you got nine that are willing to vote against you, and then when you got one that's so arrogant about it, like, what does that say about the state of the Democratic Party? That just says we have a Democratic Party that is there just because we know how bad the Republican Party is. So we need the Democratic Party to actually do some things and stand up and not just say we're not Republicans. It's not enough.
There were, again, 9 senators, and then I'm going to show you who they are. And it's important to be able to know where folks stand. And so this is what, first of all, these are the number of senators who would not sponsor Sanders' standalone bill. It was Carper, Coons, Cortez, Masto, Hassan, Hickenlooper, Kelly, King, Manchin, Menendez, Shaheen, Sinema, and Tester. Of that particular group, 9 of those senators actually voted against this particular bill. Michael, it says a whole lot. If you can't vote for $15 an hour, how in the hell are you going to go back to your district and try to make plain to folks who are having issues making a living that you care about them?
Yeah, you're right about that, Roland. And I really want to hear from them what their reasoning was behind this, because raising the federal minimum wage, we talked about this last Friday on the show. Federal minimum wage has not been raised in 12 years, okay? And to raise it to $15 an hour, and it's important for people to understand, it's not $15 an hour immediately. It's increasing by $1 a year up until the year 2025. That's the proposal from Bernie Sanders. $1 increment increase each year until the year 2025. So I want to hear from them what their reasoning is behind this. But the other thing is, I'm all for holding Democrats accountable, but we also have to hold, I'm not saying you're not doing this, but we also have to hold Republicans accountable as well. Because raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour, raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour will help a whole lot of poor white Republicans. Yep. They keep voting for these Republicans in office. They keep screwing them over. Okay?
They don't pretend like they stand for that, though. That's the difference. They don't pretend like that. Republicans are about cutting taxes for the rich, and Democrats say they are standing for working poor. So do what you say. I mean, that's all I'm saying. And Republicans do what they say. They got there and they passed that tax bill with no problem, giving corporations all types of benefits. There was hardly any defections. And I'm saying I expect the same thing when Democrats are in power.
Right. Now, the other thing I think is important to understand, and Roland's talked about this before, is that the Democratic Party, and I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but at the same time, I ain't stupid. I'm looking at who keeps blocking these bills. The Democratic Party is a bigger tent. There's more diversity in the Democratic Party than it is the Republican Party. But this is critical. Now, the other thing that's really important in the article from CBS News that deals with the $1.9 trillion economic relief package, the American Rescue Plan. Bernie Sanders on Thursday said he wants to propose an amendment during this vote-a-rama. He wants to propose an amendment to raise the tipped minimum wage, which is currently $2.12 an hour to $14.75 an hour over 7 years. Now, we doubt if that passes, but a lot of people, I don't think, understand that the tip minimum wage is federal policy as well, which once again ties into laws and policies and things like this. So, this is critical.
Candace, Greg Sargent put this tweet out. He says, here are the numbers of people who make under $15 per hour in states and senators who voted no on the hike as of 2019. Sinema is number one, 839,000. Far outdistancing Manchin in West Virginia, 229,000. Carper, 106,000. Coons in Connecticut, 106,000. Hassan, 146,000. Shaheen, New Hampshire, 146,000. Wow, that says a whole lot right there.
It does. It really shows a number of politicians who are probably out of touch with what it means, obviously, to live in poverty, especially when we're in the time of COVID. And I think what's interesting to note is that, come May, Joe Biden said that we're going to have almost all adults have the availability of having the COVID test. So we're talking about people who are going to come out and try to get back to work at a time when they need these types of monies. Of course, it's going to be incremental, but at least the hope and knowing that you have people who are in office supporting you because you have voted them in, that makes a difference. And this is why voting is so important, right? So that we can change policies by changing the people who are in office, who have no idea, who are not at the ground, who don't understand what's going on when it comes to making $30,000 a year and raising 5 children. That's what people are doing out there. $839,000 is something that people don't make over 10, 20-year periods at a time, depending upon how much they make. So this is a number of politicians who are out of touch and can't even understand, can't even sympathize or empathize with what exactly is going on at the ground.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. For more than 10 days now, half of the residents of Jackson, Mississippi have not had running water. Officials said a majority of the city will see water restored soon, but caution there may be further delays because of water main breaks. Joining us right now is the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, Chokwa Lumumba. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Roland. Happy to speak with you and your listening audience.
Folks were sending me tweets over the weekend. So what's going on? What caused this?
The fact that we don't have a weatherized water treatment facility, which would have been millions and millions of dollars of investment to do so. During the winter storm that we suffered a couple of weeks ago, it led to the collapse of our mechanics in our water treatment facility. Valves froze, the screens of the portion of the facility which the inception of water comes in was complicated, and it brought down the PSI to about 37 PSI, and it takes about 90 PSI in order for water to distribute all across the city. People were still consuming water. It drained the reserves and the tanks. And so essentially we have to start over from scratch in filling tanks and distributing water across the city again. The prolonged period of time in which the winter storm stayed around the city also made it even more, it complicated the problem even more.
So we saw the same similar issues in Texas where they were impacted due to the cold weather there. Was this on the city? Was it on private folks? Is exactly, whose fault is it? And what break a resident is going to get are the water bills, in terms of what is happening there. Also, are you also telling them to boil their water? I mean, so really what's happening with the folks who do have access to water? Absolutely.
So the city was not unprepared. The city was unequipped. The problem is decades of a lack of investment in an aging infrastructure. Also coupled with the fact that we are experiencing hotter summers, colder winters, and more rain during our rainy season, which is taking a toll on our infrastructure. Those are the contributing factors. That's why, we've seen this same narrative not only across the South, but specifically here in Mississippi in multiple cities. And so that's a failure over time of both city leadership. That's the failure over time of state leadership and the federal government to understand that legacy cities are in need of strong investment in terms of our infrastructure that serves people each and every day. And so our efforts have been not only to restore water, but to meet people where they are with the resources. There have been distribution efforts across the city ever since we've been faced with this emergency circumstance, where we've been delivering water to those areas that are hardest hit. Here in our city, South Jackson gets it worse than the rest of the city because they are furthest away from the treatment facility, which means that the water has the furthest distance to travel to reach them, and especially those individuals living in high elevated areas. It is hard for them as well.
So it's been 10 days. When you say restore soon, what does that mean? Next few days, a week, 2 weeks?
Well, the way that the system is structured, it doesn't give us an update like updating our phone where it tells us an estimated time in which the update will be completed. What we can know now is that we are towards the end of our journey because we know that people at the furthest point for which we deliver water, many of those residents are starting to give us reports that they are seeing restoration of their water. But that requires consistency in the pressure that we are issuing. These systems were not meant to be shut down and restarted in this way. And so because of the natural occurrence that led to the shutdown, we are now having to build back up. And so, it's not necessarily a matter of not knowing what to do, as it is that time is a part of that solution. And so we need the time for tanks to fill. We need the time to balance the pressure and those issues that are competing issues and the domino effect that we suffer at an event like this.
All right, then. And Mayor Chocolumuma, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
One of the things that this reveals, Michael, what happened in Texas, what's happening there in Jackson, Mississippi, is that these very basic, fundamental things that citizens take for granted, it's amazing what happens when things start acting up. Things like water, electricity, heat.
And you hate to look at everything being political, but you kind of have to look at it that way. Red states like deregulation. They like companies and power companies and water companies to be able to determine exactly how they winterize, if they're going to winterize at all, how they're going to do bills to the consumer, whether they're going to adjust them upwardly. There's so many different ways, and it just happens to be consistent in red states. We have all this deregulation. So then when Mother Nature and God comes in to create an event, as the mayor just said, it's not that they weren't equipped. They weren't equipped or weren't prepared. I forget what he said. It just made a lot of sense. And that's what's happening in these red states where governor after governor after governor keeps deregulation in place so these companies can do whatever they need to do. When tragedy hits, they're not ready.
It was interesting, Julian. I saw this one story that said that the deregulation of electricity in Texas cost residents an additional $28 billion. To me, that's sort of like a poster, a meme that anybody needs to distribute anytime Republicans start yelling deregulation. And that's not the case that happened here in Jackson. But again, part of the issue that we face is that basic fundamental things, when all of a sudden, when something happens, oh my God, people go crazy. But this is why you have to pay attention to infrastructure, water, electrical grid, bridges, very basic fundamental things that Americans, we love talking about technology and apps and stuff like that. No, it's the basic stuff that when you lose it, you lose it.
Well, Roland, our national infrastructure is crumbling. As you mentioned, bridges. About 10% of our bridges could fall anytime. You look at water supply. We saw it in Flint, now Texas, now Mississippi. Any state could have this kind of problem. We look at the quality of our schools. We get a D- according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, a D- on the quality of our schools. And we could go down the list. Deregulation is part of the problem, but the other piece of it really is spending government dollars on infrastructure. Now, that man who used to be the president campaigned on infrastructure, but nothing happened to infrastructure in those 4 disastrous years. Now, hopefully, President Biden will take a different approach. Federal dollars need to be joined with state dollars, and in some cases, local dollars to provide basic needs. You're talking, like you said, water, electricity, gas, all the basic things that we expect people to have. I mean, when you looked at Texas last week, when you looked at those lines and everything else, reminded you of a developing country, not the United States. And when you look at Mississippi, saying people have to have running water for days, I mean, again, that reminds you of a developing country. When I went to Ghana a couple years ago, somebody told me to bring my own bottled water. So I put a case of water in my suitcase. And, you know, it lasted me a week. That was good. But I'm just saying, you expect to do something like that in a developing country. You don't expect to have to do something like that in these United States. So our government, our national government has been neglectful. And so Brother Lumumba, when he talked about not being unprepared, how could they prepare with a crumbling infrastructure?
Eugene, as I keep saying, it's the basics. It always comes back to the basics. And that is, we saw what happened in Texas, lack of preparation, how deregulation, but also it also speaks to in this country what unfortunately happens when the pursuit of profits over anything else. That's one of the reasons why you don't have the federal funds going towards infrastructure, because folks are like, oh, no, that's wasteful spending until you need it. Then they go, why wasn't it fixed? Because you idiots called it wasteful spending.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially in the broader context of infrastructure spending. But I think in particular in the situation in Jackson, I think if we're keeping it in the buck, there's a reason why the city council is fighting with Mayor Lumumba right now over this very issue. And it's not because of federal funding, it's because of the mayor's not providing proper leadership on this. It's an issue that he's been raising for the last 3 or 4 years. But unlike some of the cities in the Delta that dealt with the same issue, if not worse, there's been no bond bills put on the table. There's been no plan put on the table. Even today, he couldn't give a straight answer on when, folk are going to get their water back, if it's going to be days or weeks, and kind of danced around it. But I agree, hey, there needs to be federal funding for infrastructure. The basics of bridges, gas, electric, things that keep society running should be priority. But I think that, there's responsibility at all levels, particularly at the local level. And I think the mayor said it best, that, hey, there's a failure of leadership, and I think also that includes himself.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, testified before Congress today where he dispelled accusations of fake Trump protesters' involvement in the Capitol riots on January 6th. Wray also reaffirmed that the Bureau has been working day and night to catch those involved in the Capitol siege and has found no evidence thus far of Antifa involvement. The head of the FBI said domestic terrorism has been metastasizing for a long time and it is not going away soon. He also talked about white supremacists and white domestic violence. Here's some of his testimony.
That attack, that siege, was criminal behavior plain and simple, and it's behavior that we, the FBI, view as domestic terrorism. It's got no place in our democracy, and tolerating it would make a mockery of our nation's rule of law. The rule of law, of course, is our country's bedrock, and it's our guiding principle at the FBI. That's why the FBI has been working day and night across the country to track down those responsible for the events of January 6th and to hold them accountable. We're chasing down leads, we're reviewing evidence, combing through digital media to identify, investigate, and arrest anyone who broke the law that day. And our greatest partner in this investigation has been the American people themselves, your constituents. Citizens from around the country have sent us more than 270,000 digital media tips. Some have even taken the painful step of turning in their friends or their family members. But with their help, we've identified hundreds of suspects and opened hundreds of investigations in all but one of our 56 field offices. And of those identified, we've arrested already more than 270 individuals to date, over 300 when you include the ones of our partners, with more subjects being identified and charged just about every single day. The FBI is committed to seeing this through, no matter how many people it takes or how long or the resources we need to get it done. Because as citizens, in a sense, we're all victims of the January 6th assault, and the American people deserve nothing less. Unfortunately, as you noted, Mr. Chairman, January 6th was not an isolated event. The problem of domestic terrorism has been metastasizing across the country for a long time now, and it's not going away anytime soon. At the FBI, we've been sounding the alarm on it for a number of years now. I've been sounding the alarm about domestic terrorism since, I think, just about my first month on the job when I first started appearing up on the Hill. And I've spoken about it in maybe a dozen different congressional hearings.
Based on your investigation so far, do you have any evidence that the Capitol attack was organized by, quote, fake Trump protesters?
We have not seen evidence of that at this stage, certainly.
Well, it must be pretty stupid to have folks like Josh Hawley and others, Lawrence, sit up there and just throw out nonsense and have the FBI director sitting here like he's playing ping pong. Just smacking all that BS away.
Yeah, I actually think that the very fact that Chris Wray even addressed that ridiculous narrative with regard to it being Antifa and fake Trump supporters and all this nonsense was slightly ridiculous. I mean, I guess you do have to address it because they put it out there. But, you know, a big cornerstone of Republican messaging, of course, right now is just straight up lying. And when they straight up lie, they play the percentages. They get on network TV and they just lie and figure that, you know, we'll get half the people believing us and this is how we're going to do it. So when you get into the conversation at a hearing like this type of idiot narrative where there was absolutely no proof of any of that, and you got the FBI director sitting there having to address it, and another senator, Senator Coons, asking about it. So you had like a good chunk of conversation about something that was completely and utterly false, that there was zero evidence for. And that's, you know, that's the world today that the Republican Party has brought us into. They want us into this tailspin of bullshit. That's what they're about. It's just talking about junk and nonsense that doesn't exist because they don't want to talk about the real world that's changing and the real demographics that are changing and the reality around them. They cannot escape it. It is not going away. The country is changing. The demographics of the country is changing. And instead of embracing that on some level, instead of facing that new reality, they've decided to lie to themselves. The Republican Party has decided that is what they're going to do, is lie to themselves. And what we end up with is a riot at the Capitol, an attack on the Capitol, and the craziness that we saw January 6th. I mean, you can't make it up. At some point also, too, we got to get to these social media companies because social media is driving these lies completely unregulated. And we are in a situation now where basically nobody's really confronting them or doing anything about it. They've got good lobbyists. That's one of the problems. And a few of those people have ended up in the White House on staff, unfortunately. But at some point, we have to confront the fact that these lies are propelling people to take action violent and dangerous to this country. But really, it is the Republican Party. It is Donald Trump. It is the fact that they cannot face reality.
Ben, great point. Lawrence talks about how the lies are spread, the disinformation, especially on Facebook, and how they're not stopping it.
Yeah. No, when you think about the algorithms that Facebook uses, it rewards the most extreme behavior possible. Not just Facebook, YouTube, all of these outlets, they reward the most extreme behavior. And if the FBI really wants to find the people who are culpable for this, they should check some of these YouTube channels, some of these streams that get 20, 30,000 people watching them, while most of us on the left or the center are getting a handful. But that's because the algorithms push them further and further into this right-wing conspiracy theories and all the things that drove what happened on January 6th. And so it is a problem, but it's compounded by the fact that technology is not on our side in this instance, not because it can't be on our side, but because people like Mark Zuckerberg have clearly found it more rewarding to make it beneficial for people like Alex Jones, as one of the recent reports indicated, than it is to create a level playing field.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, let's go back to Capitol Hill. Today, the head of the D.C. National Guard, compelling testimony that explains exactly what happened on January 6th. And who chose not to give him the right orders to muster the National Guard. But listen to what he says, what they said to him when Black Lives Matter protested in D.C. Watch this.
I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today to discuss the events of January 6th, a dark chapter in our nation's history. I was personally sickened by the violence and destruction I witnessed that fateful day, and the physical and mental harm that came to U.S. Capitol Police officers and Metropolitan Police Department officers, some of whom I met with later that evening, and I could see the injuries that they sustained. It is my hope that my recollection of the events and my presentation of the facts as I know them will help your committees in its investigation and prevent such tragic events from ever occurring again. First, I think it's critical to understand what the District of Columbia National Guard mission was on January 6th, to include the civilian agency we were supporting, and our requests for support of other civilian authorities were handled. On December 31st, 2020, the District of Columbia National Guard received written requests from the District of Columbia Mayor, Muriel Bowser, and her Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, Dr. Christopher Rodriguez. The requests sought National Guard support for traffic control and crowd management for planned demonstrations in the district from January 5th through January 6, 2021. After conducting mission analysis to support the district's request, I sent a letter to the Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, on January 1st requesting his approval. I received that approval in a letter dated January 5th, granting support to the Metropolitan Police Department with a 320 Guardsmen personnel to include a 40 personnel quick reaction force. The District of Columbia National Guard provides support to the Metropolitan Police Department, the United States Park Police, the United States Secret Service, and other federal and district law enforcement agencies in response to planned rallies, marches, protests, and other large-scale First Amendment activity on a routine basis. A standard component of such support is the stand-up of an off-site quick reaction force, an element of guardsmen held in reserve with civil disturbance response equipment, helmets, shields, batons, etc. They are postured to quickly respond to an urgent and immediate need for assistance by civil authorities. The Secretary of the Army's January 5th letter to me withheld that authority for me to employ a quick reaction force. Additionally, the Secretary of the Army's memorandum to me required that a concept of operation be submitted to him before the employment of a quick reaction force. I found that requirement to be unusual, as was the requirement to seek approval to move guardsmen supporting the Metropolitan Police Department to move from one traffic control point to another. At 1:30 p.m. on January 6, we watched as the Metropolitan Police Department began to employ officers to support the Capitol Police. In doing so, the officers began to withdraw from the traffic control points that were jointly manned with District of Columbia Guardsmen. At 1:49 p.m., I received a frantic call from then Chief of United States Capitol Police, Stephen Sun, where he informed me that the security perimeter of the United States Capitol had been breached by hostile rioters. Chief Sun, his voice cracking with emotion, indicated that there was a dire emergency at the Capitol, and he requested the immediate assistance of as many available National Guardsmen that I could muster. Immediately after that 1:49 call, I alerted the U.S. Army senior leadership of the request. The approval for Chief Sun's request would eventually come from the Acting Secretary of Defense and be relayed to me by Army senior leaders at 5:08 p.m., about 3 hours and 19 minutes later. I had already had guardsmen on buses at the Armory ready to move to the Capitol. Consequently, at 5:20 p.m., less than 20 minutes, the District of Columbia National Guard arrived at the Capitol and were being sworn in by the United States Capitol Police. We helped to establish the security perimeter at the east side of the Capitol to facilitate the resumption of the joint session of Congress. In conclusion, I am grateful for the guardsmen from the 53 states and territories who supported the District of Columbia National Guard Operation Capitol Response and helped to ensure a peaceful transition of power on January 20th. In particular, I am grateful for the timely assistance from our close neighbors from Virginia, Delaware, and Maryland National Guard, who augmented D.C. National Guard forces in establishing the security perimeter. I am honored to lead these citizens, soldiers, and airmen. These are your constituents, many of whom left behind their families, careers, their education, their businesses, to help ensure the protection and safety of the United States Capitol and those who serve in it every day.
General Walker, I want to start my questioning by going back in time a little bit prior to the events on January 6th. So my question is, in June of 2020, as violence was escalating during the summer protest, were you able to immediately receive approval from the Secretary of the Army and the Secretary of Defense to deploy National Guard to assist law enforcement at that time?
Senator Peters, I was. Yes, sir. The Secretary of the Army was with me for most of that week. He came to the Armory. I was in constant communication with him when we were not together.
So you were immediately able to receive approval in June of 20. From your testimony, I want to be clear. Were you able to immediately receive approval from the Secretary of the Army and the Secretary of Defense to deploy the National Guard on January 6th?
No, sir.
In your opening remarks, you said that a January 5th memo was unusual. Could you explain to the committee why it was unusual and what was the impact of the memo that you received on January 5th?
So the memo was unusual in that it required me to seek authorization from the Secretary of the Army and the Secretary of Defense to essentially even protect my guardsmen. So no civil disturbance equipment could be authorized unless it came from the Secretary of Defense. Now, the Secretary of the Army, to his credit, did tell me that I could have force protection equipment with the guardsmen. So we did have helmets, shin guards, vest. We did have that with us, but that came from the Secretary of the Army. The Secretary of Defense told me I needed his permission to escalate to have that kind of protection.
That kind of protection, even though you would be engaged in force protection, that to protect your men and women, before you could do that, you would have to get approval from the Secretary of Defense?
The memo from the Secretary of Defense made clear that I needed his permission to have, so what it says, without my personal authorization, the District of Columbia National Guard is not authorized the following: to be issued weapons, ammunition, bayonets, batons, or ballistic protection equipment such as helmets and body armor. Now, again, to be clear, the Secretary of the Army told me to go ahead and issue that equipment. So we never were going to have weapons or ammunition, and we no longer have bayonets. But we do have ballistic protection equipment, helmets, body armor. And so I did have that with each guardsman.
Thank you, General.
General Walker, if the restrictions on your authorities hadn't been put in place by DOD, what would you have done when Chief Sund called you at 1:49 on January 6th with an urgent request for National Guard assistance?
I would have immediately pulled all the guardsmen that were supporting the Metropolitan Police Department. They had the gear in the vehicles. I would have had them assemble in the armory and then get on buses and go straight to the armory and report to the most ranking Capitol Police officer they saw and take direction. And further, just let me add this. So one of my lieutenant colonels on his own initiative went to the Capitol anticipating that we were going to be called. So he would have been there, and he met with Deputy Chief Carroll of the Metropolitan Police Department, who asked him, where is the National Guard? How come they're not here? And this colonel said, well, I'm sure they're coming, and I'm here to scout out where they're going to be when they get here. So that was the plan. I would have sent them there immediately. As soon as I hung up, my next call would have been to my subordinate commanders, get every single guardsman in this building and everybody that's helping the Metropolitan Police, remission them to the Capitol without delay.
This, y'all, was an absolute inside job. There's no way around this, Monique. None.
No, none at all. I'm left speechless. I hope that Americans are hearing this testimony. I believe that from the very beginning, from the day that I was here on the show, that all of it took place, which was January 6th. But it's just plain now. I mean, there's no arguing that, and they need to dig and dig until every single person responsible is held accountable.
It was interesting, Scott, to listen to Republicans ask questions of the commander, knowing damn well that if a Democrat in the White House had done that, they would be raised in holy hell and losing their minds. You don't trust the troops. You don't value cops. A cop died. One had lost 3 fingers. One lost his eye. And these folks act like there was a picnic on the lawn January 6th.
Oh, very reserved, of course. But if those are 1,000 Black Lives Matter people who had gotten shot and laid out in front of the Capitol, which they would have been had they been Black folk, you would have said it was necessary, those same Republicans, it's necessary to protect democracy and our liberty and our freedom of the Capitol. But let me tell you something for your viewers, because I've done a lot of internal investigation, okay? You don't just look at documents, you don't just interview the lead people. You go up and down that line, Roland, until you get to the link, the witness that is going to link the communication, because it won't be in writing, the stand down communication. Somebody willing to come forward and tell the truth that the Department of Defense and Homeland Security were told to delay, stand down, and that regardless of violence, that they were certainly not to be there in order to prevent, quote, bloodshed. And that is an order that came directly from the White House. And if you investigate it long enough, if you set up the commission, you hire outside counsel, and you're really thorough because you want to know the truth, that's what the ultimate report will say. It won't be conspiracy theorists. It'll be factually based. And then that needs to be published, right? And then the bad actors need to be prosecuted. Because you're just scratching the surface based on the testimony, the public testimony. They need to go behind closed doors with hundreds of witnesses until you get to the link that we have not heard, the actual witness that says, I was in the room when the order to stand down from the White House came in. It's coming. Just sit tight.
Robert, to sit there and watch co-conspirators ask questions is pretty funny and pretty ballsy.
Well, absolutely. And I think any banana republic on earth, and I don't like that antiquated phrase, would understand that certain people need to recuse themselves from these hearings. The people who need to recuse themselves are the people who are the co-conspirators in the crime which took place. And frankly, these are the people who are going to be facing not just expulsion from the Senate, but maybe criminal charges. People like Hawley and Cruz. We heard the statements from Congress, people saying that there was a congresswoman who was tweeting out the location of the Speaker of the House during the insurrection. The individuals, which is very easy to find, the individuals who were giving guided tours throughout the Capitol at a time where guided tours were banned at the Capitol, and those people later on coming forward. We've seen the QAnon shaman say that he is willing to come forward and testify as to their connection. Alex Jones has said he wants to go before a Senate committee on these issues. So the truth is going to come out. But you're right, there's a special level of gumption that's required for Hawley and some of these others to sit there and try to question what happened, the witnesses. And there's a quote from Voltaire that I like, where he says, "If you can convince a man of absurdities, you can force him into atrocities." And that is what we're seeing with these Republicans and these MAGAs now. They've been so corrupted, so bought into this idea of voter fraud and losing their country. And this goes far back before Trump. David Duke was talking about this in the 80s. The singularity is coming in the 2040, where there will be a majority minority nation, that they are so willing to believe those absurdities that they were willing to commit the very atrocities that they thought they were going to prevent going forward. We saw the golden statue at CPAC. These people are on a completely different wavelength, and to think that we're going to go back to negotiating with them like it's Tip O'Neill and Ted Kennedy or something along those lines is not realistic. We have to fight the fight that's in front of us, and right now we have to fight with every weapon we have.
Look, these people.
Roland, one other thing.
Go ahead.
If I may. That that witness list has got to include those House of Representatives and those senators mentioned by my colleague. They've got to put them under oath. The question is, do the Democrat, they hold on to leadership, have the guts and the fortitude to put them under oath as well? They should.
Well, look, these fools haven't stopped. They're not going to stop. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Reese, pressure. For the people who just think, hey, you know what, I voted, I'm good. No. It's not going to happen without that pressure.
Yeah, right. I need people to set aside the 2024 presidential primaries. First of all, there's a possibility that President Joe Biden might run again. I know he's old, but he might decide to run again. So set aside that. Set aside the political posturing to try to undercut, VP Kamala Harris, and focus on where the work lies, which is in the Senate, which is with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. It's time for him to step the hell up. It's time for him to feel the pressure. I don't see that he feels like he's under any pressure. I haven't seen it. You don't even hear his name mentioned. If it was Speaker Pelosi who had trouble wrangling AOC and Connor Lamb, it would be nonstop coverage of it. But we see Chuck Schumer and Majority Whip Dick Durbin getting a total pass. We see Senator Manchin getting a total pass. What has to be impressed upon them, and I hate that we even have to make this argument, because why do we have to continue to justify our humanity to these people? But we have to press upon them that the humanity and the full citizenship of Black people and brown people in this country goes above and beyond this Jim Crow relic. And they have this allegiance to so-called procedures and so-called standards that keep their foot on our necks. And so that's unacceptable. So I don't have the answer, Sway. I really don't. I wish I did. But this is not a matter of tradition. This is not a matter of, we have to keep the filibuster in case the Republicans get in. They're gonna do whatever the hell they want to do. That's what they did to get all these 200 plus judges plus 3 Supreme Court justices. They're gonna do whatever it takes. It's time for the Democrats, specifically the Senate Democrats, to step up. And everybody who cares about this activity, about these acts passing, they need to be pressuring the Senate folks, okay? The Senate folks. That's where the ball is in their court. The House is done. This is now a Senate issue. Put all guns blazing there. I'm not saying have it a firing squad, but you have to ride their asses, period.
This is a video that Congresswoman Karen Bass posted on her Twitter page. Go to my iPad, please. And then, of course, it reminds folks of what took place with George Floyd last year. Also, right there, 100 unarmed people brutalized and killed by police since George Floyd was murdered. Since. That speaks volumes that goes beyond George Floyd, that you have to address this issue among these out-of-control cops. Kelly.
The fact that we are still in this predicament day in, day out, decade after decade, it just shows you just how stagnant, how slow, and frankly, how comfortable we are as a nation with this happening. Certainly not Black people, but as a nation, we are comfortable with Black bodies dying. Certainly because the systemic racism that lives within. But thankfully with this bill, one of the main things that is a part of it is a national registry for these crimes committed by police officers to actually be documented and logged in, similar to how you have a national DNA database for criminals. There would be a nationwide database for crimes that cops do. And if you are a cop who kills unnecessarily, you should be treated like the criminal that you are. So this is a great step in that direction. Now, to Reese's point and your point, Roland, regarding applying pressure, specifically in the Senate, it is not, the irony is not lost on me that once again, Democrats are relying on a Black woman to get things done. We are no longer in a position for that to happen because we now have 2 senators, being Manchin and Sinema, who will thwart her efforts, so to speak, regardless of whether Democrats are united. So when it comes to applying the pressure, it's holding people accountable. It's making sure that we don't wait until 2024 to think that things are going to change. It means not even waiting until next year, 2022, trying to make things change. We need to act now. We need to make those phone calls to our senators now. We need to hold not just Kamala Harris accountable, not just Biden accountable, but your specific senators, your local government, your House representatives as well, because they are the ones who pass it in order to get to the Senate. So these are the civics lessons that should be ingrained in everybody, but clearly they are not. So absolutely, I agree with everybody on the panel here in regards to applying the pressure. But the irony that we are relying on Black women, a Black woman specifically, one being the vice president once again, and then for Democrat as a whole not to have her back, because we still have two like going rogue. That is beyond insulting to anybody. Specifically this Black woman here, and I'm sure Reese can agree. I see her nodding.
Greg, again, when we talk about pressure, I keep telling folks, show me what Black folks have gotten in this country without pressure. And again, and for the people who keep running their mouths like, well, no, the George Floyd Justice Act, that's not specifically helping Black people. The voting bill not specifically helping Black people. Well, guess what? Okay, while y'all sitting here waiting on that, the rest of us are busy trying to make things better for Black folks.
Yeah, brother. I mean, let's be very clear. There'll be a lot of people who get checks with the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that no Republican, no member of the White Nationalist Party voted for and will vote for. That's a fifth of that bill. 22% of that bill is direct payments. That means Black people, your money will spend too. You'll get that money. What this is exposing, again, reminding us of, unfortunately, is the truth of the political immaturity of the American electorate. This is years of being dumbed down through, silly-minded media, and of course, social media has only weaponized it. I'm glad you wore that shirt today, brother, because right now, while we're here in Haiti, the Haitians are like, this president got to go. February 7th was your last day, bruh. You got to go. The Constitution says that, and the Supreme Court and the courts in Haiti have ruled on that. In some countries, they just won't stand for it. Here in the United States, however, a dumbed down country, we don't even have the momentum of memory. And today, for example, I was talking with my students, and I teach this hip hop class, and we were reviewing what happened in the late 80s, early 90s around these insurrections, and many of them had never seen the murder of Latasha Harlins out there, or that white judge that let that Korean lady go for doing it. Many of them hadn't seen the Rodney King footage, and so we talked about that, and that's not the fault of these young people. That's the fault of those of us with so-called platforms who don't continue to remind folk that there's nothing in the George Floyd bill that is new. In a minute, when we talk about this Black Lives Matter money, all the money going to HBCUs, all this money that's going out, this money is washed in the blood of Breonna Taylor. It's washed in the blood of Ahmaud Arbery. And we've seen this show before. In other words, this country is a criminal enterprise that was set up on dispossessing people of their land, and it's basically a business enterprise. And to keep that going, there will be politicians put in place to continue that momentum. Now, the problem the Democrats have, finally, is that those who back them in terms of lobbying, and I know we're going to talk about HR1, and that's very important to think about this question of limiting donations and things like that. The people who must vote for the Democrats look more like us. The white nationalists have completely doubled down. And so I think we have to now, rather than, in addition to putting pressure on the Democrats, I got a question for that bucktooth Ben Sass in Nebraska. I got a question. I got a question for those white nationalists who think they're going to win a national election. We have to now show political maturity to not only get on the Democrats and say what's going on, but we need to elevate and scream to high bloody heaven. You white nationalists over there who are getting a complete pass because nobody expects you to do anything different, we're going to put your faces up next to these toothless, ain't getting no vaccine, homeless, lights out in Texas, white people who you have deceived, and we're going to posterize y'all because y'all getting a whole pass to stand up and saying no. We're acting like there's only 50 people in the United States damn Senate. No, every member of the White Nationalist Party must now be crucified on the altar of common humanity. They are enemies of humanity. The reason they had to have a late session last night is because their friends threatened to come back down here and repeat what they did on January 6th today. You're white nationalists, you're enemies of humanity, and you must be destroyed politically. You don't get a pass because you're not behaving as human beings.
But then when I say put pressure, what I'm talking about is, remember, we are still constituents. And that is black folks in Nebraska. That's right. Put that pressure on Sass. Black folks in Utah, and ain't many of y'all, put that pressure on Mitt Romney. Black folks in Milwaukee and Wisconsin, that's right. Come and put that pressure on Senator Ron Johnson. That is the only way these things are actually going to happen. It doesn't matter what the issue is. It doesn't matter if we're talking HR1, George Floyd Justice Act, if we're talking about Democrats planning to increase the child tax credit to $3,000 per school-age child. It does not matter. It's about pressure. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, a lot of developments happening on Capitol Hill. Let's start with what is happening right now. Pretty interesting. In the United States Senate, they're actually reading the entire 628 COVID relief bill. Please go live to the Capitol. Check this out. This is what is being happening right now. Why? Because Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, he had told them that they need to actually read the entire bill before they move forward. Now, what happened earlier, Vice President Kamala Harris, she broke a tie to allow the moving of this bill forward. This is the look. You can hear the clerk reading the bill right now. And so Johnson is trying all kinds of delay tactics. Folks, this man needs to be defeated when the election takes place next year. But this is the bill right here. Listen.
2021, out of any money in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated, $9,961,000,000 to remain available until September 30, 2025 for qualified expenses that meet the purposes specified under subsection C and expenses described in subsection D1. B, definitions in this section. 1, conforming loan limit. The term conforming loan limit means the applicable limitation governing the maximum original principal obligation of a mortgage secured by a single family residence.
Again, what they want to do is try to delay this bill as much as possible. They don't really give a damn about the voters out there. It's all about them and their particular arrogant interests. Dr. Greg Carr's chair, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, Reese Colbert. She is Black Women Views. Erica cannot join us this week, so we're joined by Kelly Bethea, Communications Strategist. Bottom line here, Greg, look, they're asses. That's who they are. That's who Senator Ron Johnson is. Senator Chuck Schumer said, hey, you want folks to read the bill? We'll be more than happy to listen to this entire bill. No problem. And so it will take several hours to actually go through it. But the bottom line is it's moving forward. And not a single Republican in the House supported this bill. Likely no Republican in the Senate is going to support this bill. That's all President Joe Biden needs to know and understand. Republicans are not going to work with him. They're not going to do anything with him. They are going to obstruct as much as they can. This is going to be the norm between now and the 2022 election.
I think it's probably going to be the norm, absolutely, until the 2022 election and from now on, as long as there is a United States of America. this bill will attract no white nationalist support because these white nationalists have chosen their whiteness over their lives. They've chosen the whiteness of their constituents over their lives, their white constituents. And on a day when Johnson & Johnson has now been approved for the one-shot emergency dosage, a day when the United States has now gone over the 2 million a day capacity mark, a day when Joe Biden has announced, of course, that he's going to evoke the Defense Production Act, and that Merck is actually partnering with Johnson to ramp up production. On a day, when FEMA has announced they've approved 7 mega sites in Texas and California, thank God, Texas, and we got about 8.5% of the population has gotten the full dosage and 16% has 1 dose. The White Nationalist Party has said that rather than support anything that will help humanity, they're going to choose their whiteness. Congratulations, because your little country, the dream country in your mind, Ron Johnson, you rotting politician, is going to implode. And hopefully it will take and wash the memory of you and the rest of your white nationalist colleagues with you. Finally, I'll mention that one of the reporters is reporting that even though he did that, threw the rock and hit his hand, Johnson left the chamber and was spotted talking to Collins, talking to Rob Portman of Ohio, and talking to Joe Damn Manchin. Joe Damn Manchin. Let's be very clear. For the bills you're going to talk about in a minute, this filibuster has to be broken. Joe Manchin, you political hack. We've known that this was going to come down to you, and this thing, we're going to have to run over you, bruh. You got to be run over. You ain't going to choose your whiteness over your life. We'll stand you up with that blow-dry haircut coming out them coal mines, and you're going to vote the right way, or we're going to move on up over you, too.
The only reason this is actually being read as we speak, as I say this, because Vice President Kamala Harris broke the tie. This is what took place earlier today.
The yeas are 50. The nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the motion to proceed is agreed to.
Madam President,
Mr. Majority Leader.
I have an amendment at the desk, and I ask for its immediate consideration. Oh, excuse me.
The clerk will report the bill, please.
Calendar number 10, H.R. 1319, an act to provide for reconciliation pursuant to Title II of S. Conres 5.
Majority Leader.
Madam President, I have an amendment at the desk, and I ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the amendment, please.
The Senator from New York, Mr. Schumer, for himself and others, proposes an amendment numbered 891. Strike all after
Reese,
the first
that's
word.
the action we should see when it comes to the filibuster, when it comes to the George Floyd Justice Act, when it comes to the voting bill. If Democrats stick together and you have all 50 votes, they can do this to pass whatever they want to, but they got to stick together to make it happen. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Now we have where you have folks saying that they have actionable intelligence that these same white domestic terrorists plan to do harm on March 4th tomorrow, which is like this. In this QAnon conspiracy, Monique, they believe that tomorrow Trump rides the white horse back into the White House.
Yes, they do. They do. It's insane. I watched one of the women who was at CPAC, not inside the doors, but outside, explaining how just from 1776 to now, he's about to assume his rightful place, and it is lunacy, truly. And that is the proof that not just that there's this remnant out there that can be molded or that has this belief system, but that as news organizations very different than yours, Roland, who just carry the story over and over again with zero responsibility, with zero ethics in the way that they do it, because it gets clicks and it gets views. It has led our country into a sewer, and we have people who really are in the desert putting sand in their mouth and calling it water. And that's why leadership matters so much. Leaders lead. They lead by example. They understand the responsibility. There are rules, there are boundaries. As President Obama, President Biden will say, we don't have to agree on positions, but we got to agree on the same set of facts. And that's not where we are. As Robert just said, no, it's very binary right now. They're in an entire different world. They have created one for themselves with an alternate type of system and facts. And anytime they start losing people, they create. So see, it was supposed to happen on Inauguration Day. And since that didn't happen, they were losing people. They came up with March 4th. And so there's no reason to think that all of these people that are in the black market, that are the underbelly of the internet and of the web, the dark web, there's no reason to think that they are not being spurned on by current members of Congress, prior members of the administration, in order to do their bidding.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.